What's happening? Welcome back to 9 to 5 Flies YouTube channel. I'm your host, Daniel Moss. So, it is late February. March is coming, spring's coming. It is time to get ready for spring fishing. So, what I've got here is just a pile of mess. This is my gear. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the things you can do with your gear to get it going, get it ready, so that you don't have to worry about faulty equipment or not having what you need for the spring season. So, with that, we'll get rid of this stuff. All right, and now we're here with just a piece of paper. So, what I've done here is I've just made a little bit of a list, and this is just a checklist to go by when you're going through your gear. You don't have to do this, it's just something that I like to do. So, first on our list is waders. Now, when you look at your waders, the first thing you want to do is just kind of give them an overlook. Just look at the overall look of them, make sure there's no holes, visible holes in them. Then once you do that, what you want to do is flip them completely inside out. Once you flip them inside out, you can fill them with water. Hang them up outside, fill them with the water hose, and then you'll be able to see if you have any leaks, pinholes or whatever. Once you've done that and you find out you don't have any leaks, or if you find out you do have leaks, empty them out, fix the leaks on the inside. The inside is what contacts your body. So if you fix the leak on the inside, then you're pretty sure you're not gonna get wet. Then after you do that, since you've got them inside out, go ahead and give them a wash. Now I recommend using just some Dawn dish detergent and a soft rag. You don't want to use anything that's real abrasive. You don't want to ruin or scratch up the inside and create an environment for potential new holes. Hang them, let them dry. I recommend not letting them dry in the sun, just because sun can cause dry rot and stuff like that. Then once they're cleaned out, flip them inside, flip the inside back in there, flip them right side out, and just kind of give the outside a little another little hose down. Make sure you hang them because you don't want them to dry wet. Then they get mildew or whatnot in them. So that's about basically it for the waders. We'll move on along here. The next thing on our list is boots, your wading boots. So if you're like me, I usually just throw my boots in my little bin and let them dry, right? And typically, I do this type of gear run about once a year. I don't really have an off season, so my gear doesn't really get stored up anywhere too often. But grab your boots, check them out, make sure your laces are good. Make sure you don't have any nicks or anything in your laces. Make sure there's no tears or anything in the actual boot. If you wear felt, and these are a corker's boots, so they're replaceable, the soles are, it's probably a good idea just to replace your felt if you have a replaceable sole. If not, take them off, soak them in some warm soapy water, and after that, let them dry, and then soak them in a light Clorox solution, about 1 capful to a gallon of water, and let them soak in there. And you can let your whole boot soak in that Clorox solution. After that, put them in a shady spot to dry, let them dry. I do recommend maybe spraying some Febreze in them. They can get kind of yucky and stuff like that. But the boots are pretty straightforward. You know, just make sure you don't have any rips in them. Make sure all your laces are good. Also make sure the eyes where your laces go are good. Once they get torn out and they won't hold a lace, you're gonna probably need to get a new pair of boots. So yeah, just give your boots a good overlook and a good clean, and they'll be good to go. So what's next on our list? Rod and reel. So we'll start out with the reel. Take your reel, and first thing you want to do is just kind of give it a little overlook. Make sure there's nothing, no burrs or any scratches on it that you may have created. After that, pop it apart. Check your gears and your bearings, okay? You want to make sure that there's sufficient lube on them, that there's no any kind of grime or sand or dirt or anything in them. Fun fact, I went fishing one time and I had thrown my rod and reel into the sand on the bank of the stream, and I didn't realize that it had gotten sand in it. Went fishing a couple of weeks later, and my reel had seized up from the sand. So you want to make sure that your reel's really, and this is something you should probably do every time you go fishing, is just kind of check your reel, make sure that there's nothing in it. As far as cleaning them, I just take a really, really damp rag, a lightly damp rag, and just kind of wipe it out, let it dry. I'll usually wipe it with a dry rag if there's any heavy water. And then I'll re-lube all the parts that need to be lubed up. So once you check your reel, you're going to want to check your line. And this might be a little time consuming. What you want to do is you just want to pull your line out at about 2 feet sections. And as you pull it out, just kind of look it over. Make sure there's no nicks in it, anything like that. Like I said, you just pull it out a little bit at a time. Just kind of rub your fingers over it. If it feels grimy, clean it, and make sure you clean a industry standard cleaner. Use a cleaner for fly line. Don't use, I guess you could use soapy water. If you're going to use soapy water, use Dawn dish detergent. But other than that, you want to just use a fly line cleaner. Check your reel seat, make sure it's on there good, make sure it's not loose, and check your handle. That's about it. You know, you just really want to make sure that it's lubed up good and your line's not really messed up too bad. So we'll put the reel back up and we'll move on to the rod now. All right, now take your rod. I do recommend that you don't typically leave your rods assembled with line or tension on them. If you leave them assembled too long, what will happen is the furls will get stuck together and they'll be hard to get off. So try to store them taken apart. When it comes time, I recommend just looking at the rod. Make sure there's no cracks in the rod or anything like that. Always check your eyes to make sure none of the wrappings or anything have cracked or come loose or anything. You know, the eyes are what guide your line, and if you don't have a good line guidement, you're gonna have a hard time casting. When it comes to the butt section of the rod, so this is a little different. Make sure that there's no obstruction or anything in your reel seat threads. You want to make sure that if it's a double nut reel seat, make sure that both nuts are moving cleanly. You don't want to feel any grime. You should be able to just spin them and they go. Now this one's got a washer in front of it, but you should be able to spin it and it just goes. So make sure that the portion of the reel seat that actually goes on the reel seat, make sure that it's there, it's not bent, it's not, it looks good. When you get to your rod handle, the cork, just kind of give it a look over. Give it a feel, make sure it doesn't feel real slimy or anything. If it's dirty, and you can see this reel handle's got a little bit of dirt on it. I recommend taking a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Get it a little damp, and then just scrub it with that. Scrub your cork with that. Now you want to make sure that you don't scrub any other part of your rod with it, because it will eat the paint and the epoxy off. So just do that. It's just abrasive enough to where it's going to lighten up your cork. It's going to smooth it out better. And I can do another video on that if you guys would like. Just leave a comment below. But just if you want to clean up your cork, go right ahead. That's how I recommend doing it. I mean, there's tons of videos online of people resanding them and stuff like that. And if you want to go through that kind of thing, you can. I don't think it's too necessary for an everyday use rod. But yeah, if you just want to clean it up, you can. Again, check your butt section, check your wraps, make sure there's nothing. And lastly, the furl area where your rod meets, where you put your rod together, make sure you check that. Make sure there's no cracks in it. Make sure there's nothing gummy on it that could hinder or cause your rod to stick. So you want to make sure that it just goes on smoothly. Kind of give it a little twist, make sure everything's smooth. There's nothing gummy that's going to cause it to stick on there and not be able to come apart. So your rod and your reel are probably the top two. I mean, you know, you want to make sure that your rod and your reel are in perfect condition so that when you're on the water and you hook into that big one, you can depend on your equipment to haul it in. All right, next on the list is your fishing bag. Now, some people don't use a bag, some people use a vest. I understand that. I use a bag. I like a sling pack. I also use a small chip pack for the front here. You know, when you're looking over your bag, you just basically want to make sure it's not torn. It's still holding everything that you need to. You want to make sure that your gear and stuff is still where you left it. You want to open it up. Make sure you didn't leave any food or anything in there. I don't think I did. Nope, I didn't. But you want to make sure your gear's where you left it. Take your gear out. Make sure that your gear hasn't spoiled like your sandwich would have. You know, just kind of, and make sure you didn't leave any trash in here. I say that about trash is because if there's trash in here that you didn't know about, there's a chance that you could knock it out on the stream and then leave it behind, and you know, you don't want to do that. So just, you know, kind of go through it, make sure everything's right. You can check your tethers. As you can see, this tether's no good anymore. It is not coming back in, so that'll need to be replaced. But so, you know, just kind of check over your bag. Make sure there's nothing that you left. One thing's for sure, so this bag, this is the Orvis Guide Sling Pack. It has a Velcro patch here for you to put flies in. You know, check that. See if you left any flies. Of course, I got a couple of flies here. But, you know, just check that. Make sure you didn't leave anything unwanted there. So, that's about that on the bag. And you can do the same with the vest. Just check your vest. Check all the pockets. Make sure you didn't leave any dirt or any trash or anything like that, any leaders. That way you can kind of make sure that you don't leave that on the stream on your day out. So we'll move on to fly boxes. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why fly boxes? Well, let me show you why. So you're on the stream, you're hanging out, you're getting ready to put another fly on. You're looking at your fly box. Uh-oh, I got a fly here that I didn't put back in the slot. It fell, now it's floating down the river. This could be the fly that they're biting on, right? You never know. So you just want to make sure you check your fly boxes, make sure everything's kind of where it should be, and you want to make sure all your flies have been put back in their slots. That way, if you're on the stream and you pop that open and you're looking at it, they don't come flying out and you lose your flies. And you do that with all your fly boxes. You can see here, well, you may not be able to see that, but here I've got a fly that I had tied down to a leader. And I got line hanging out, so I want to go through there and check that. But just open up your fly boxes, kind of hold them upside down like that. Make sure nothing falls out. If it does, put it back in. You would much rather them fall out on your table at home than on the stream and watch it spin around. Now, this box is just a gear box. So this is my nymphing kit. I keep everything in this box that I need for nymphing. Indicators, split shot, tippet rings, scissors, a little bit of extra fly line for a reason I'll do another video on. But I just go in here and check it, make sure everything that I know I'll be using during the season is in here. If not, then I can replace it, you know, go to the store, purchase it, whatever. So I'm not gonna open up this and show you guys. I'll do a whole nother video on this. But, so, that's as far as gear, bags, fly boxes. Now, the last thing, all right, the last thing, and probably no one thinks to look at this piece of equipment, mainly because it's not something that is used as heavily maybe as a fly rod, especially if you're a weekend guy. If you fish, you know, once or twice a month, you know, a couple of Saturdays a month, you're definitely not gonna look at this. But I recommend that you do, and that is your net. So, most trout nets have a rubber net, and rubber is very prone to dry rotting. Also, most guys carry a wooden net. Now, wooden net, being that it's wood, can break It can splinter. So you just want to kind of, first thing you want to do is just kind of open up your net, look at it, make sure there's no holes in it, so when you catch that big monster, it doesn't slip through and then cause some kind of ruckus. Then you just want to kind of rub your fingers around the rim. You know, just kind of rub it around and make sure there's no splinters or anything that could possibly hurt that fish when you're netting it. Because, you know, we want to be able to release these fish unharmed so that, you know, future fishermen and generations can catch them as well. So yeah, just make sure your net's not broken or anything like that. I've had this net for years and I've never had any problem like that, but you know, it's a good thing to check it every year just to make sure. It does get a lot of abuse and a lot of neglect as far as my fishing gear. So go ahead and check that out. And once you've checked that out, it seems to be that you're done, right? And you are. So we'll just do a little quick recap. I like to make a list when I'm checking my gear. This one's fancy printed out. You can just write it on a small sheet of paper. And I always start with the thing that's going to take me the longest to the thing that's only going to take me a few minutes. So again, I started with my waders, boots, rod and reel, then my fishing bag, then my fly boxes, and then my net. And now you don't have to do them in this order. This is just the order I like to do them in because I know it's going to take me a little bit longer to check my waders and clean them and do that kind of thing. And I do recommend that you do this a few days at least before you go fishing. And try to do this at least once a season. You know, I know a lot of people don't fish during the winter. They only fish in the spring and summer. So in those winter months, you know, leading up to the spring, make sure you try and do this. You know, it really just benefits you the most. You know, you're the one that's going to have to use this gear, and you're the one that's going to have to rely on it. So, and you never know. You might be taking a buddy fishing who needs to make sure that, you know, you need to make sure that the gear you're going to let him use will work as well too. So, that's about it on preseason prep. So, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll get back to you and answer it the best I can. And I'd like to thank everyone for tuning back in for this episode, and look for future episodes, subscribe, and you'll be able to be notified when they come. Thanks for watching.